I'm here today with Jack Lifton. Jack, how are you?
I'm fine, Tracy. Thank you.
Jack, we might as well just start. Let's start with Molycorp. We've had so much debate in the last 24 hours and emails coming in from everywhere, Twitter, telephone calls, you name it. Is there any revision you'd like to make or update on the Molycorp status that you'd like to comment on?
I'm just curious I don't know what they're going to do. They have, money in the bank, but they don't really have any prospect of raising any further money. So they can tough it out and hope that the money in the bank lasts until a turnaround, or they could now try to restructure the company, and that money in the bank might be very helpful in finding a suitor or actually to predatory people who might want to take it over. So since they do have $300 or $400 million to make, some big number, I suspect that's going to make them more of a target for the turnaround artists. And I suspect a great deal of activity at Molycorp, but not in producing rare earths.
Okay, well, just further to that, I did receive a couple of emails last night about people actually being concerned that, like Geoff Bedford, that he has basically been thrown a heavy anchor. And there's nothing good that can happen for his career at this time. And that there undoubtedly be some management changes that will take place, especially if the predatory maneuvers that we perceive that are currently happening, of course, most of the media is covering right now, occurs. Undoubtedly, there will be management changes.
I think that's obviously true. And this didn't just start yesterday. Remember, Eric Noyrez mysteriously left Lynas a few weeks ago and was replaced by someone from the financial sector. Don't be surprised, quite frankly, if this happens at Molycorp and someone from the financial sector steps in who has strong ties to a predatory lender.
Well, speaking of that, I hate to put you on the spot, but have you heard from Eric recently?
No, except that the last time I spoke to him, he said he would be staying on that job to transfer it administratively to the new CEO and through August, and he said he was returning to France, his birthplace, in September. I will be in France in 2 weeks, and I won't be surprised to run into Eric. I suspect that things are accelerating.
Well, excellent, because we will definitely be getting an update from you in France. Now, there's so much news that's happened this last week. We've got Stan's Energy with their arbitration. We have Northern Minerals, which has had just an onslaught of news. Tasman, of course, had excellent news yesterday. Where would you like to start, Jack?
Well, actually, I think that you've just named some good companies. And I'm happy to see that you're focusing on those. I think Tasman is even better off than you think, but the reason I cannot disclose today to our viewers the reason. I'll try and tell them next week because I'm under a confidential agreement. But I think Tasman's looking very good. Quite frankly, I've had a conversation with Northern Minerals, George Balk, the CEO, and I was extremely impressed by their progress, or as you guys say, progress. They are really headed, I think, in a good direction. They spent a great deal of money getting that deposit organized. And quite frankly, it is, as far as I know, the largest xenotime deposit there is anywhere. And it's not surprising to me there's so much Chinese interest in it. It's surprising to me that, as George said, they did not want to hand it over to a Chinese investor so that they would take control. They decided to try and keep it under domestic Australian control. And that wasn't a government thing. That was the decision of the company. They don't want to be a one-trick pony just to be an outlier supplier to China. But I think it reinforces the interest of the Chinese in Northern, reinforces my theory that China is worried about their supply of the heavy rare earths, such as dysprosium and yttrium. Remember, xenotime is 60% yttrium and 8 or 9% dysprosium. It's actually the best for the time, our time. It's one of the best rare earth minerals there is. I'd rather have a Northern Minerals than 10 Molycorps.
Speaking of geopolitics, Jack, the Japanese-Australian Free Trade Agreement will undoubtedly bring Alkane to the forefront because of their strategic partnership with Shin-Etsu. Do you have any comments on this?
So, quite frankly, I think that a company like Shin-Etsu has pre-positioned itself ideally, and that Japan, okay, China is the world's largest eater of metals. About 60% of the world's metal production goes to China. But what we forget is that Japan is a powerhouse, a real powerhouse. If I had to choose which nation's corporations I'd like to have as a customer, of course we pick Japan, because Japan is a relatively liberal democracy where the rule of law applies and where private ownership of property is sacred, as in all countries adopting that system. So Alkane's got the best of all worlds. I guarantee you the Chinese would love to buy everything he's producing. So he doesn't have to worry, and the Japanese are going to stay very, very friendly. Fortunately, this is very fortunate for Chalmers, because Australia has no demand for technology metals. It's just 35 million people living in a place the size of North America. If you get out of the cities, you don't see anybody. So there's no giant industry there. There's no huge steel mills pumping out millions of cars or aircraft, anything like that. If you're going to develop a technology metal resource in Australia, you have to first find the export market for it. Chalmers has done that. He's done it exactly right. It's wonderful.
David from Stans Energy was in my office last Thursday, and of course they're absolutely thrilled with the latest arbitration announcement for $118 million. Do you have any comments on that, Jack?
Well, here's the problem. I've done business with Russian companies over the years, and I realize we're talking Kyrgyz, but remember this court convened in Moscow. They can owe you money, and you need pliers and time to get it out. So I applaud them for winning the money, and I would not want to be not paying my debts when a Russian court had ordered me to pay anywhere near Russia. Okay, but getting the actual money is going to be a challenge. They must not make plans based on they're going to have the money tomorrow or whenever they think they'd have it under Anglo-Saxon jurisprudence. It's going to be a challenge. I have a question for them, and I hope they see this interview and might answer it. I would like to know what process was used at that plant that Stans has to separate the rare earths. Yes, I understand it was solvent extraction, but what did they do after to purify it? Because there have been a lot of developments in downstream technology, and I'd like to know what the Russians have done. I'd really like to know. Okay.
With the July 4th weekend that's just occurred, I thought I would ask you for a little bit of an update on all of our American rare earth companies. Molycorp Rare Metals, Rare Element Resources, Texas Rare Earth Resources, and of course U.S. Rare Earths. Do you have any comments or updates on any of the four companies for us?
I don't know anything about U.S. Rare Earths. I really don't, other than what I read on their website. I've never spoken with those gentlemen since many, many years ago when I was a consultant to, I think, their predecessor in interest 2 times back. But the others, I think, are doing technically quite well. This is a tough market in which to raise money. And quite frankly, they're all pursuing development diligently. And I'm extremely impressed. And I'm telling you, and I only predict things once a day, I'm telling you that you're going to be very surprised in the near term at some of the announcements coming out of the three American companies, Texas Rare Earths, Molycorp, and Rare Element Resources. You'll be very surprised.
Okay, well, as U.S. Rare Earths is one of my clients, I can tell you that you can add that to the basket, and we will make sure that we arrange for you to have a teleconference with Kevin Cassidy this next week. Okay. Anyways, anything else on your mind here, Jack, that you'd like to mention, or any travel plans we should know about?
Well, I'm going to France for 2 weeks for meetings, various meetings, and I'm going to find out what's cooking in the European rare earth scene, because I'll be meeting quite a few companies. and I will let our viewers know.
Jack, have yourself a wonderful week.
Thank you.